I will request to have attention just to have the linkages among several scholars in case of comparative literature. In 1816, a collection of French poems entitled Cours de littérature compare. Cours de littérature compare. Cours de littérature compare, in which the term comparative literature was mentioned in relation to teaching literature in French. Before this class, we got the idea the first time Matthew Arnold gave a lecture at Oxford University. There he mentioned the term. That was in 1857, but here 1816. So we can say that comparative literature starts with the term initiated by the French researcher, the French poems entitled Cours de littérature compare. And in that term, comparative literature was mentioned in relation to teaching literature in French. So they wanted to teach and read and write literature in terms of comparison, and for this reason they published this book in 1816. So it is generally agreed that such kind of series of French collection of poems, that is anthologies, used the term comparative literature at first in the history of teaching literature. So we see that comparative literature got its importance in the second half of 20th century or first half of 19th century, but here we see that from the very beginning of 19th century we see that in French anthologies they started teaching their poems in terms of comparative literature. So the history is started from the very beginning of 19th century, that is 1860. René Ouellec. After that, after French, René Ouellec, a Czech-American comparative literary critic, discussed the origin of the term comparative literature and notes that the title is unused and unexplained. We are getting so many explanations, we are getting so many perspectives of comparative literature, but this Czech-American critic said that actually what does comparative literature mean? The term itself is unexplained and unused. Who said? René Ouellec. He showed how the term came into use in 1920s and 1930s in France. So he also mentioned the previous reference, that is 1816, that means 1820s and 1830s, the comparative literature started its journey in terms of French literature, especially the French poetry or collection of poems, that is anthologies. So René Ouellec also mentioned, but he said that the term itself is very complex and unexplained.
Sir, anthology
Collection of poems. René Ouellec suggested that the German version of the term, so from France then we went to German. French School of Comparative Literature, German School of Comparative Literature will be different. So next time René Ouellec suggests and moved us to German. German version of the term Vergleichende literature Chiste, German word. Okay, so you have to write it, don't try to pronounce it. First appeared in Maurice Carrier's book in 1854. So René Ouellec in France, comparative literature term used in 1816, and in German we have seen they have mentioned the term in 1854. However, the earliest English usage attributed to Matthew Arnold, who referred the term as in plural as comparative literatures. Comparative literatures in a letter in 1848. So 1848, 1854 and also 1816. 1816, that is the French version of the term, that is comparative literature. Next in 1854, that is the German version. But René Wellig mentioned that actually the idea, that is Matthew Arnold mentioned the term comparative literature in a letter before his speech at Oxford University, and that happened in 1848. Actually the idea will come with several issues. Okay, so who is the first person who mentioned the term? Here we see that Matthew Arnold also mentioned the term in a letter, and that was in 1848. Whatever might be the name of the term in different countries and languages. So in German they set comparative literature in different terms. In France they set in different terms, and in England by Matthew Arnold they set it in different terms. So there might have different identification or names or terms relating to comparative literature. In terms of different countries and languages, it is obvious that concept of comparative literature was evolved in relation to more than one literature. It's very transparent, like a glass. More than one literature in Europe and in the early years of 19th century. So from the concept of Europe, that means France, German and England, we see that the idea of comparative literature that would be dealing with more than one literature, and that it be happening in the early years of 19th century. So that is the history. Initially they started talking about the term that is comparative literature. It seems that the term comparative literature is derived from a methodological process. Methodology, okay. The ways, methodological process applicable in science, in which comparison and contrast are being used as a means of confirming a hypothesis. Hypothesis means first time a research start with an imagination or hypothesis that this can be. The combination of this and this will give you a result that is that. Okay, that is the hypothesis. And whenever the hypothesis will be tested, that is called, after the testing, after the research, গবেষণার পরে সেটা হয় কিনা. So the comparative literature first started its journey as a hypothesis testing in science, not in literature. In this regard, we see another critic, Philarete Schall. Pronunciation is slash mark will be identifying the pronunciation. You know, phonetics and phonology also. So this is not Chelsea, it is Schall. Schall, Philarete or Philarete Schall, a French critic and man of letters. In his inaugural letters in Athens, entitled Literature Intranger Compare. Literature Intranger Compare. Again in France, he put that term. What is the term? Literature Intranger Compare. Whenever you will be writing this term, you have to write the exact way the pronunciation it is given in this slide or in the book. Okay? That means foreign literature compare. Try to locate the object of study of comparative literature in the following manner. So next time we said that in French anthologies we got the term comparative literature in 1816. And then the French critic, he actually elaborated the term, the French critic, Philarete Schall. So let us calculate the influence of thought. So he gave a different definition. Previously we got that comparative literature will be comparing a literature, very broad definition. But Schall said that let us calculate the influence of thought